We can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it started. It's almost 7:10 now. We can start. No need to wait.
Yeah, I'll just mute you all, guys. If you have any queries, you can post your queries in the chat window. Okay, so I think we should get started. We have most of the people who have joined in. Okay, so guys, in the last session, so we had actually started with our Java topics. Okay, the ultimate goal for learning Selenium. Okay, so we have started some brush-up sessions on Java. Okay, so yesterday we saw some of the Java core concepts. That is, classes and sorry, we saw classes and methods. So classes and objects, and then we saw what are the different methods we have, and then data types and data type conversion. Okay, and then we saw some properties of strings and a quick introduction to what inheritance is and how a child class can observe or inherit some of the property from its parent class, right? So these are a few of the topics which we covered yesterday, and today what we will do is, we will go a step forward, and we will see that what are the various concepts, for example, method overloading and method overriding. Okay, and apart from that, there are a couple of concepts, for example, interfaces and abstract classes, right? These are used for encapsulation and for data hiding, right? This is one of the object-oriented principles which we have. So any languages, for example, Java is following object-oriented programming principles, right? So these are some of the principles which a language has to follow. Okay, and then we have some looping mechanism in Java, wherein, for example, you might have heard of for loop and if else loop and all those. We will cover those in this area. And then we have arrays, and then we have collections, right? So for collections, we'll mostly focus on array list and maybe hash map. Okay, so let's start. So yesterday, guys, we saw inheritance. What I'll do is I'll close all the other windows. Okay, so for inheritance, we saw this vehicle class, and then we have this bike class. Okay, so as we saw, we had created two methods in your parent class, and these two methods were not present in your bike class. That means in your child class, but using this extend keyword, we were able to access all the methods which are present in the parent class, right? I just created an object of the child class. Okay, and using the child class object, I was able to access the parent class methods as well, right? Some of the methods which are present in parent class, for example, apply break. So now what are the best feature of inheritance is, if in case you do not want to create any method, okay, and you simply want to inherit that method from your parent class, then this extend keyword will do the needful, right? You just have to extend and you'll get all the methods from your parent class. But there is also a provision in inheritance, wherein even if you are inheriting the method, and if you want to customize that method, okay, let's imagine, you have inherited something from your parent class, but you want to customize it a little bit, you do not want exactly the way it is in your parent class, right? You want to customize it a little bit. So you can also do that customization as well. Okay, now let's imagine if this is your vehicle class, right? If you want to have all the methods which are present in your parent class, right? This is your bike class, this is your subclass, or you can say child class, right? Now let's imagine if you want to have all the methods which are present in your vehicle class, that is your parent class, you can simply right click on the screen and you can go to the source, okay? And within source, if you click on override or implement methods, okay, if you can see this field, override or implement methods, and when you click on that, you will get the method of vehicle, and you can say okay, right? You will get this auto generated field, right? This is a way wherein all the methods which are defined in your parent class can be defined in your child class. This is one of the shortcuts. Let's imagine if you do not have this, and even if you want to create, let's say I want to override only this method. You can simply copy this method and you can paste that method in your child class. Okay. Now, can you see this green symbol over here? This green symbol indicates that this particular method is present in your child class as well as this method is present in your parent class as well. Example, apply break, right? So apply break method is present in your parent class, and now the same method is also present in your child class. That means, we are actually overriding the parent class method, right? What we are doing is we are actually overriding the parent class method. Okay, let's imagine if I want to customize this. Okay, I'll say I am calling this from bike child class. Okay, apply break. Now if you see, we have this apply break method in child class as well as in your parent class, right? And now when I go to your Java basics, this is your main application. I have created an object of my child class, and if I run this line of bike object dot apply break, and now when I run this program, can you see it is applying break from bike child class, this line. Okay, guys, can you see this line? This line says that it is applying break from child class. So this entire concept is actually called as method overriding. Okay, guys, method overriding. This concept is called as, I'll write it over here, method overriding. So method overriding means you have entirely a same method, okay, an exactly same method with same signature, same method name in your parent class, and if you implement or customize that particular method in your child class, then it is called as method overriding. Okay, guys, this is called as method overriding. You can see this over here. It says overrides vehicle dot apply break. Means this method is overriding already there is a method in vehicle class which is your parent class. Okay, guys, clear? So in this vehicle class, one method is being overridden by your child class and the other method is not overridden by your child class. All right, so now if I run the switch light method, okay, I'll say bike object dot switch light, then since this method is not present in your child class, it will be executed from your parent class. Okay, switching light from the vehicle class. So the thumb rule is, if you call create a object of a child class, okay, and if you run a method, first it will check, if the method is present in your child class or no, right? If the method is present in your child class, it will execute the method from the child class. And if the method is not present in your child class, then it will execute the method from your parent class. Okay, clear? Okay. So now let's see the concept of method overloading. Okay, and guys, these are the interview questions when people do ask you that what is method overriding and what is method overloading, right? Because some of the times, people get confused, that what is method overriding and what is method overloading. So for these things, you should add your own analysis and do some studying, for example, overriding and overloading. Okay. Now let's see what is method overloading. For method overloading, let's imagine we have this method, right? Public void start. Okay. We have this method of public void start. Now, if I create one more method of public void, let's say I'll simply copy this method. Okay, I'll simply copy this method. Now, if you see, Java is giving an error, right? Java is giving you an error that the start method, okay, if you see this, there is duplicate method start in type bike, right? You cannot have duplicate method in the same class. Okay, you cannot have duplicate method in the same class. So if I rename this to start one, then it is fine. It will start working, right? But how do I have duplicate method in the same class? How do I have duplicate method in the same class? So there is a provision called as method overloading. Let's imagine if I specify some parameters over here, let's say integer I. Now can you see it's not giving you any error, right? So this concept is usually called as method overloading, wherein the method name remains the same. Okay, the method name remains the same. Okay, and the method signature changes. Okay, when I say method signature means your, let's say, your data types, right? For example, this particular method name, initially it was accepting 0 argument, and now it is accepting 1 argument, right? So now I have changed the number of arguments, so it's working fine. Also, if I change like this, double is also a data type, right? Now can you see this start method has only 1 argument, and this start method, okay, this start method has also only 1 argument. Okay, both have only 1 argument, but if you see the data type of both the arguments are different. Okay, guys, the data type of both the arguments are different. So you can achieve method overloading in Java by 2 ways. Okay, first thing is you can differ in terms of number of parameters. Okay, so if you see this method has 0 parameters and this method has 1 parameters, right? This method has 0 parameters and this method has 1 parameter. So this is also a method concept of method overloading. Okay, and apart from this, you can also achieve method overloading using this concept wherein the number of parameter remains the same, right? You have only 1 parameter, but the data type of both the parameter is different. Okay, data type for both the parameter is different. Okay, guys. So this is method overloading, method overriding and method overloading. Okay, now let me full screen this so that it's easier for you. Okay, so after method overloading and method overriding comes the interface, right? Now, as I told you, okay, for in Java, right? In Java, we only support single inheritance, right? Single inheritance means, when I say single inheritance, means either single or multi-level inheritance, but we do not support multiple inheritance, right? So in the last lecture, I told you, you can inherit from one parent, right? You cannot inherit from multiple parents, right? So in a similar fashion in Java, a class can inherit, from one parent and not from multiple parents. And if you want to inherit some of the feature from multiple parents, then there comes a concept of interfaces. Okay, using interfaces, your child classes, can inherit the same method which are present in interfaces. Now let's see how do you create an interface. Okay. Let's say I create the similar fashion like we create a class, you can create an interface, okay, and you can give a name of your interface. Let's say interface demo. Okay, interface demo is the name of your interface. This is your interface. Can you see the difference? Over here it's public class and the class name, and over here it's the public interface and the interface name. Okay, you have this interface keyword, and using this keyword you can create an interface. Now within this interface, there is the thumb rule of Java is for interface, we have interface to achieve abstraction. Okay, when I say abstraction means I do not want to expose my overall implementation, and I only want to expose my body, not my body but the method, right? What are the methods which I have, and implementation can differ. So in interface, guys, the thumb rule is, you can only have the method signature. Okay. For example, if I create public void, and let's say this interface is of, let's say, human beings, right? So human beings can eat, right? So I can have eat, and usually when you write any method, right, you write a method like this. If you go to bike class, can you see? This is the way you write a method, right? Public void start, and then you have defined, this is your body, right? You define your lines of code in this body. But if you do the same thing in interfaces, it is giving you an error saying abstract method do not specify a body. So what do you learn from this line? We learn that all the methods, right? All the methods in your interfaces are abstract in nature by default. Okay, even if you don't specify abstract, right? So you can say public ABSTRACT, public abstract void it, right? If you define a method as abstract, then that particular method becomes abstract, okay? But even if you do not write abstract keyword when you are defining a method in interface, still it is an abstract method, okay? Because all the methods in interface are by default abstract in nature, okay? Let's say we have two methods, public void sleep. We have two methods, public void eat and public void sleep, right? So the eat method and the sleep method. Now let's say I have this bike class. Okay, I have this, or let's imagine, okay, let's make it more simpler, you know, like not complexing things. Let us create a new class and I'll say people class. People, right? We are all people. I'll say people demo. Okay, now this particular people class, you know, has no methods of its own, right? And if I want to inherit some of the methods, one way is I can use extend keyword and I can inherit some of the method, from example, from vehicle class. Okay, or what I can do is I can inherit the method directly from my interface. But for interface, we use the keyword. We don't use inherit, we use implement. Okay, implement is the word, and I can say interface, the name of the interface, that is interface demo, right? If you want to implement the methods from your interface, you can simply say implement is the keyword and interface demo. Now, the thumb rule is whenever you implement an interface, okay, whenever you implement an interface, you have to implement all the methods which are present in that particular interface. Okay, so we have these two methods, right? We have these two methods which are present in your interface, and I have simply implemented the interface, but I have not implemented the method. That is why it is giving you an error saying the type people demo must implement the inherited abstract method. Okay, you can simply click on add unimplemented method. Okay, now can you see this? As soon as I clicked on add unimplemented method, it has brought all the methods which are present in your interface. Okay. Now, what you can do is, this is your, again, see, can you see this is your override, right? I am overriding the method. This method is already present in my interface. And I am overriding this method from my child class, or maybe from my class which is implementing that particular interface. Okay. So this is your interface public void get, and you can write your code over here saying I am eating, and similar line you can copy over here and you can say I am sleeping. Okay, and now you can simply create an object for to access this. What you have to do, you have to create an object of people demo, right? So you can say people demo object of people is equals to new people demo, and then you can say obj people dot eat, right? You can call both the methods. Can you see this? I am eating. So what we have done is, you know, now let's imagine we have this one class that is people demo. Okay, let's imagine there are 10 classes. Okay, there are 10 classes, and in all those 10 classes, I want to have this method eat and I want to have this method sleep. Okay, I want to have this method eat and I want to have this method sleep. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to create those methods into all 10 classes, right? You will have to create those methods into all 10 classes, right? Instead of doing that, what I am doing is I am creating those methods into an interface. Okay, and I am forcing all my child classes, okay, all the classes which are implementing that particular interface to implement that method. Okay, so all the methods which are present, you can simply specify using your interface. Okay. Now, the problem with interface is it achieves 100% abstraction, right? It achieves 100% abstraction means all the methods which are present in interface are by default abstract in nature. Now let's imagine, there is a class, okay, there is a class which wants to achieve few of the methods of interface, okay, not all, but only few of the methods of your interface, okay. But if I define the method as abstract, okay, then it is mandatory to implement all the methods. Now let's say there is one class, okay, let's say I'll create one new class, okay, and I'll name it as test1, okay. Now if this class, I want to implement, okay, I want to implement people demo, right? People demo is an interface, PEO. One second, public class. Okay. My interface name is interface demo. Sorry, people demo is my class name. I want to implement interface demo. Now the problem is, if I want to implement any of the interfaces, it's forcing me to implement all the methods which are present in that particular interface. It's forcing me to implement all the methods, but I do not want to have all the methods. I only want to implement eat method, right? I don't want the sleep method. Okay, I don't want the sleep method. Then what should I do, right? So what I'll say is, then I'll create one normal class. I'll create one normal class and I'll say abstract abstract demo. Okay, I'll create a normal class and I'll say abstract demo, right? And within this abstract demo, what I'll say is, I'll make this class first of all abstract. I'll make this class as an abstract class. Okay. Now the feature of abstract class is, guys, the abstract class can have, abstract method as well as your normal methods. Okay. Abstract method as well as your normal methods. Now, when I say abstract method means, if you go to this interface, right? If you go to this interface, now these are all your abstract methods, right? Methods with only signature and no body. These are your abstract methods. And your normal methods are like this methods, right? These are your normal methods. Wherein you have your method signature and you have some lines of code within this body, right? So abstract class can have both. Let's say I am creating one public method. Okay, and now I want to create one method sleep. Okay, and I'll say sleeping from abstract class. Okay, I want to create one method and I want to create one. This is your normal method, right? Which one I have created, and this will be your I'll delete this abstract method. So I'll say this is my eat. Okay, now when I say abstract method without any body, then I'll have to specify, right? Abstract method. Now can you see, guys, here I have, if you do not specify, it's giving you an error because abstract demo is an abstract class. An abstract class can contain both the normal method as well as abstract method. So if you do not define, it gets confused that this is a abstract method or not abstract method, right? Either you have to define your body, and if you don't define your body, either you have to write, at least you write your abstract keyword. But in interface, we were not writing abstract keyword. That was optional because by default, all the methods over here are abstract, right? So that is why it's optional in interface, but over here you have to specifically define. Now, let's say test1, right? I do not want to have both the method. Then instead of using interface demo, okay, instead of using interface demo, what I can say is I'm not implementing, I'm extending one class, and that is abstract demo. Sorry, give some space. Okay, abstract demo. Okay, now the best part about using abstract classes is, it's giving me an error. Can anyone guess what is the error over here? Can anyone guess what probably could be the error over here? Anyone? Parenthesis, no. The class declaration is perfect. The class declaration is perfect. I'll give you a hint. When I created an interface, okay, and then when I created a people demo class and I said implements interface demo, okay, it was giving me an error. Can you see this? It's giving me an error. And what's the error? It's saying that since you have multiple abstract method in this interface, you need to implement all those methods, right? Yes. So in a similar fashion, abstract demo, we are extending your class abstract demo. Sorry. Over here. This class is extending your abstract demo. So this abstract demo has some methods, you know, which are abstract in nature. For example, which method is abstract in nature over here? This method has two classes, which is the abstract method over here and which is the normal method. Okay, eat is your abstract method, right? So do I need to implement both the methods in my test one or only one method? Do I need to implement both or only one method? Okay, so the hard rule is you have to implement first of all your unimplemented methods. When I say unimplemented means when you see in that particular abstract class, that method had only signature, there was no body, right? So I have to implement that method over here. Okay, it's not compulsory to extend to implement the other method, right? Because other method is a non-abstract method. But if you define an abstract method, you will have to implement your abstract method. So when I say abstract class and when I extend an abstract class, you will have to override all the methods which are abstract in that particular class. Okay, and now you can give your own method over here. For example, I am eating from test1 class. Okay, I'm eating, and then you can create an object of test1. Okay, test1 is your class. Okay, and you can create obj test1 is equals to new test1, and now you can simply call that method as obj1 dot eat. Okay, can you see I'm eating from test1 class, right? So there are two concepts, interfaces and abstract. Okay, for interfaces you achieve 100% abstraction because all the methods in interfaces are abstract by default. Differences. Okay, what are the differences? First thing is interfaces. In interface, all the methods are by default abstract in nature, but in abstract classes, you can have 1, 0 or maybe more methods which are abstract in nature. Second thing is in abstract, you have to specify this keyword, and in interface, there is no need to specify your abstract keyword. Next is for the child classes. Okay, in the interface, you have to implement all the methods because all the methods are abstract. And when you go to abstract classes, you have to implement only those methods which are abstract in nature. Okay, so this was more or less of your interfaces. Now let's see some looping mechanism in Java. Okay, what I'll do is, I'll create one new class so that it's easier for us to keep a track and to refer later. Let's say new class, and I'll say looping demo. Okay, looping demo. Within that, what I'll do is I'll create one main method, right? So let's imagine if I want to print my name, what can I do? If I want to print my name, what can I do? I can simply write my name over here. Okay, system.out.println Ajay. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so it's printing. Oh, sorry, it's printing Ajay. Let me move this down. Oh, it's printing Ajay, right? Now, what should I do if I want to print my name 2 times? If I want to print my name 2 times, what can I do? I can simply copy this and I can paste this over here again, and I can run this. Okay, it's printing Ajay 2 times. Now, what should I do if I want to print this Ajay 100 times? Should I keep on copying the same line again and again? No, right? Because the basic feature of Java or any object-oriented programming is you have to reuse your code, right? You define your code in such a way that you can reuse, right? If I write 100 lines of same print, then this is not reusability, right? What I can do is, there is a concept available as looping in Java. So I can say I'll use for loop, okay? I'll use for loop and I'll iterate once. I'll say for iterate over a temporary variable, okay? Or let's say I'll not use this keyword. I'll show you from scratch how do you write. You define for and then opening and closing bracket. Within that, you define one variable which you want to use because all variables need to have a data type, right? So I'll say integer I is equal to 0. Then this colon, and let's say I want to say I is less than 10. Okay, again colon and then I plus plus. Okay, and then your opening and closing bracket, and I'll cut this method from here and I'll paste it over here. So what I'm trying to say is start from 0th. Okay, so I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, and I plus plus, and keep on printing this. So whenever this condition is true, go inside the for loop and print the name. So initially what I'm saying is I is equal to 0. So it will come over here and it will check that the value of I is 0. What I'll do is I'll also print the value of I. Okay, now when I run this, okay, now can you see? Initially the value of I is 0, right? So it's going inside the loop, okay, and it's running. Then the second time, then what I'm saying is I plus plus, increment the value of I. So now the value of I is 1. So it's going over here and it's saying I is less than 10. This is my matching condition. Okay? I'm saying is I less than 10? No or yes. Yes, I is less than 10. So it goes again inside the bracket and it will execute my statement. It will keep on doing this. And in the end, what happens, the value of I will become 10. Right? The value of I will become 10. Let me print over here again. I'll say I, let's print. Okay. Okay, so the value of I after this 9, can you see? After 9, okay, it will go over here and it will update the value of I as 10, and then it will check is 10 less than 10? No, right? 10 is not less than 10, then it will not execute this statement. Okay, it will not execute this statement because I'm saying I is less than 10. Let's say if I is less than or equals to 10. Okay, then if I run this, it's printing again. Okay, now let's say I want to print numbers from 1 to 10. Now let's run this. Say it's printing from 0 to 10 because I am saying I is equal to 0. If I say I is equal to 1, and now when I run this, it's saying I 1, 2, 3 till 10, right? And if I say less than, then it will print only till 9. Okay, guys, clear? This is your for loop, right? This is your basic for loop. And let's imagine if you don't know, if you don't have any limits, right? You don't know the condition that till what point you want to execute your loop, okay? And in those cases, you can use while loop, okay? Let's say I want to use while, okay? And I'll say while true, or let's say I have this variable integer condition, right? Is equals to 1, okay? Now I want to print my name till the condition is less than 5, right? So I'll say while condition is less than 5, keep on printing my name, okay? And I'll say over here, Now let's say condition plus plus. Okay, now when I run this, now can you see this? This is printing my name. So initially the value of condition is 1. So it will go over here. It will check, is 1 less than 5? Yes. Then go and execute this statement, Ajay. And then increment the value of condition by plus 1. When I say plus plus means increment the value of condition by 1. So now the value of condition is 2. Right? So it will go over here. It will check 2 is less than 5. Yes. Keep on executing. Keep on executing. Finally, the value of condition will reach 4. And it will come over here and it will say, what I'll do is, for sake of simplicity, I'll also write, I'll not say Ajay, I'll say value of and di condition is, and I'll say plus condition. And now when I run this, we'll get a more clear picture. Okay. So initially the value of condition is 1, it executed, then 2, then 3, and then 4. And then after executing 4, it came over here and it made condition plus plus, means now the value of condition is 5. So it went over here. Is 5 less than 5? No, right? 5 is not less than 5. And that is why this condition became false. And hence it did not execute it what we have inside the loop. Okay. And if I say if this is equals to, then it will run for 5 as well. Okay. This is a basic concept of looping, right? You can use for loop and you can use while loop. Also, there is one parent condition for if loop. I can say, let's say there is one variable. Okay, we have this condition variable, right? I'll use this variable and I'll say condition is equals to 5. Okay. Now, what I'll say, if condition equals to 5, okay, if the condition equals to 5, you can simply say yes, else you can say no. Okay, then what will it print in this particular case, guys? What will it print? It's printing yes, right? Because I'm comparing condition equals to 5 and I'm saying condition equals to 5. Yes, let's say condition is equals to 2. Now it will print no, right? Because the value of condition is 2 and I'm comparing if condition equals to 5. Okay, so condition is not equals to 5, so it's moving towards else part. Okay, if this is not matching, it will move towards else part and it will print the else statement. Okay, guys. Okay, so now let's move towards a smaller concept, but again, let's say what an array is. Okay, so we all know if I want to store a single value, let's say integer id, okay, is equals to 10, and this will store, I can print my id. Okay, but let's imagine this is printing my id. Okay, I'll give one empty line over here. Let's imagine if I want to store 10 IDs, right? Can I store 10 IDs in this single value? No, right? Because this is of type integer and it can store only one value. So if I want to store multiple value in the same variable, I have to define an array, right? I can say integer ID and I can define multiple values. For example, 10, 20, 30. Okay. And now when I run this, it's saying something garbage value, because now you cannot print simple values like this. Okay, if you want to print your values, you will have to print all the values, right? So you will have to use some of the looping, or you can directly say I want to print the id of 0. Okay, so it's printing 10. So when I have defined something like this, it has 3 values. This ID has 3 values. So the first value will be stored at the 0th index, right? We use the concept of indexing over here, right? So the first value will be stored at the 0th index, that is at the 0th. Second value will be stored at the first index, and the third value will be stored at the second index. The value of indexing starts from 0, right? The indexing value for an array starts from 0. Okay, so we can say ID of 0 will be have 10, ID of 1 will have the value of 20, and ID of 2 will have the value of 30. Okay, there is one more way. Let's say instead of declaring like this, what you can say, I can say integer, okay, and I'll say id is equals to new, okay, I'll say new integer, okay, and what I'll do is, I'll simply say new integer and I'll specify some bracket. In bracket, you have to specify some value. Let's say 5. So this is the limit of this particular array, right? So for array, the disadvantage is, size is the disadvantage of an array. Okay, we have defined a limit for our array. Okay, so I'll say 3, okay, so that I can show you something. So if I want to add values over here, guys, if you see, I have added the values as well over here. But here I have not added the value. I'm simply declaring my variable ID, and now I'll add the values. So I'll say ID of 0 is equals to, let's say 21. Okay, in a similar fashion, I'll say ID of 1 and ID of 2. And I'll say instead of 21, I'll write 31 and 51. Okay, and for executing also, I can say ID of 1 and ID of 2. And now when I run this, see, it's printing 21, 31, and 41. So I am assigning the value of at the 0th position, 1 position, 2 position, and after I'm printing it. If I try to assign a value, okay, at the 3rd position, what will happen? What will happen? Now when you see, we have this limit, right? This size of the ID is only till 3. So we have defined 1, 2, and 3. And for the 4th element, there is no space. Now when I run this, I am getting this error, index out of bound exception. Okay, index out of bound exception, because there is no element which is defined at the 4th position. You cannot define because there is a limit for your ID. So your variable has some limit. So this will not work and this will throw an error. Okay. Okay. Now, if I want to print all the values, okay, what I'll do is I can simply say for I is equal to 0. We saw the for loop, right, below before. So for I is equal to 0, I is less than ID dot length. This parameter, this length parameter will give you the length of the ID. What is the length of this ID? 3, right? So I'll say I is less than ID dot length, and I'll print the value of ID. Instead of hard coding, I'll say I, right? So initially to print all the values, what I was doing, I was hard coding the value. For example, 0th index, 1st index, and the 2nd index. Now what I am doing is, I do not want to hard code the value. I'll simply say use ID of I, and based on the value of I, keep on printing. So I'll say printing an array using for loop. Okay, and now when I run this, can you see printing an array using for loop? I am able to execute all the statements, right? So instead of hard coding ID of 0, I am using a for loop. Okay, in this what will happen? First, the value of I is 0. So over here it will be ID of 0, and then it will print 21. Then again I will be incremented, and the ID of the value of I is 1, and then it will be ID of 1, and it will print 31, and in a similar fashion it will print all the values. Okay, guys. Now let's see, this is an array, right? But the disadvantage of array is there is an upper limit, right? We have defined the size. And what's the size of this array? 3, right? So you cannot go beyond that. If you want to go beyond that, what you can do is, instead of using an array, you can use an array list. Okay, so I'll say array list. And when you define an array list for any variable, right? For example, ID, you have to define the data type, right? Any variable in Java, you have to define the data type. So if I create an reference variable, let's say list. I'm naming it as list because it can contain multiple values. So this list is of type array list, and you have to define the data type. By data type means I'm strongly saying that this list will contain only those elements which are of the type integer. Okay. So I'll say array list is equals to new array list. Okay, is equals to new array list. Okay, you might get some error. If you get this error, what you have to do is, it simply imports the array list. Okay, first time when you write, you might get this error. What you have to do is simply go over there and import array list. Okay, when you import, it will import the package, and now the error is gone. Okay, so we have this list over here. Now what you can do, similar fashion, wherein we were adding the values using id of 0, the same way to add values into list, we have this method as list.add, and you can specify the integer. Okay, let's say 101 is my value. Okay, I'll add a couple of values over here. Okay, I'll add 101, 102, 103, and 104. Okay, and I can simply print my list. Now when I run this, can you see this? This is my list. Okay, I'll write something over here. Learning array list. Okay, see, this is my entire list. It's printing 101, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, guys. So this way you can have your array list, and within array list you can add your elements and you can print your list. If you want to print all the elements of your list, okay, we can simply use again your, I'll say, list. For list, there is no method as length, there is a method as size. Okay, and you can simply print list, so, and what you can print is list of maybe I. Okay, for list there is a method list dot get, and you can specify the index. Okay, so I'll say printing all the elements of list. So here we were directly printing the list, right? In this particular case, I'll say printing the entire list, right? Not the individual values. And over here we are printing the individual values like 101, 102, 3, and so on. Okay. If there is one more way, if you want to remove some of the values, right? Let's say I want to remove the value of, let's say, third index, right? And now when I print my list, okay, I'll simply write over here printing after removing. So which value do we have at the third index? So this is at the 0th index. This is at the first index. Let's not try to remove third. Let's try to remove 2. So this is at the 0th index, right? This is at the 0th index. This is at the first index. This is at the second, and this is at the third index, right? I'm trying to remove the element at the second index. That means this value 103, right? So I'll say printing after removing value 103 from the list. Okay, and I'll simply print my list. Okay. Now, can you see that initially we had 101, 2, 3, and 4, and after removing 103, this is not present in my list because I have removed that particular element from my list. Okay, I have removed that particular element from my list. Okay, so internally, array list also uses the concept of indexing, right? Array list also uses the concept of indexing, and all the elements are stored in the base of index. Now we will see one more topic, that is widely used in Selenium, even for REST assured. When you are doing API testing using REST assured, that concept is widely used, and that is called as hash map. Okay, so the concept name I'll write hash map. Okay, now hash map, guys, is also a way wherein you can store values. Okay, wherein you can store values, but the other thing is, First of all, hash map is implementing your map interface, and hash map is storing your value in key and value pair, right? It stores your value in key and value pair, right? Where your keys will be your unique indexes, right? Your keys should be unique, but you can have your multiple values. Okay. And guys, over here also, if you see, we can have multiple indexes as well, right? I can have multiple values. Okay, can you see this? I can have multiple values in array list as well, right? So in a similar fashion in hash map, but for hash map, when I create hash map, can you see there is key and value, right? I'm getting K and V, right? This is key and this is value. For array list, I just had to define one data type, that is integer. But for hash map, I have to define two data types. So let's say I'm defining integer, sorry, not interface. I'm defining integer, comma, I'll say string. And let's say this is my map is equals to new hash map. Okay. What I have done is I have created my hash map. Now, let's say we all are working as an employee in any of the companies, right? We have all those people who are attending the session today. These people are actually working in a company, right? So your company stores your value in terms of ID, right? You might be getting your employee ID when you join a company, right? For example, I am working, Purni is working, we have Katyani working, Joshi is working in a company, right? So you get your employee ID, right? So somewhere in the database or somewhere in the code, they have this definition of hash map, you know, wherein your name is actually mapped to your ID, right? So let's imagine Ajay is working in a company and my name is Ajay, but my EMP ID, right? EMP ID is, let's say, 11, right? So in a similar fashion, okay, similar fashion, we have Purni also working in a company, okay, and the employee ID of Purni is, let's say, 12, right? And we have Katyani also working in a company and her employee ID is 13, right? So whenever you fill up any form, right, you write your employee ID, right? So this is the data. Now, if I want to have that data in my map, how can I put that data? Let's say I want to store this data into my hash map. What I can do is, so first thing is, if you see, this employee ID is an integer value, right? So I have defined the key as integer, right? This is my key. So in a company, right, there can be multiple values. Let's say we have two Ajay attending this session today, right? So we can have one more Ajay, but the employee ID of this Ajay is 14, right? I am also Ajay and there is one more Ajay, okay? But the employee ID, that is the value of key, is different for both the Ajays. So I have defined this as an integer and the name will be defined as a string, okay? So what I can say is map dot, instead of add, there is a method as put over here. Now I'll define the key. So what is my ID? What is the ID of Ajay? 11, right? And what is the value? The name is Ajay, right? So in a similar fashion, I'll put the values for all of the people. Okay. So the employee of Purni is 12, Katyani is 13, and the other Ajay is 14. Right? I'll write this Purni over here. This is Purni, and this is Katyani over here. Okay. So what I have done is I have inserted all the values. Now, these values are now present in your database, right? Not present. I have just inserted, but now if I want to print, okay, if I want to print the values, okay, how do I print a specific value? Okay, how do I print a specific value? So to print values of hash map, okay, there is a method. Let me give you this. So there is a for loop, and you can define map dot entry. Okay, map dot entry, and map dot entry is a method. Okay, and you don't need all this stuff because we have. So I'll say value is equals to, okay, and which is my variable? What's my variable name? My variable name is map, right? So I'll say map dot entry set. There is a method as entry set. Okay, this is double. Okay, there is a method as map.entrySet. Let me close this. Okay. Okay. So this is the way wherein to retrieve the data, right? We use a simple for loop, right? This for loop for list, right? But this for loop, simple for loop will not work for hash map, right? Because hash map stores data in terms of key and value and not only value. These are data storing only values, right? But here we have multiple values, right? So your key and as well as your values. Now, if I want to get any data, what I can do is I can simply say my variable name is value over here, right? My variable name is value, so I can say value dot get key. Okay, because I have both datas over here, right? So guys, if you notice for list, okay, we only have the values, but when we are dealing with hash map, within hash map you have your keys and you have your values. Both the data are present. Now when I run this, now can you see this? Instead of using print ln, I'll use print, okay, so that it's aligned for reading purpose. Okay, oh, 1 second, I'll have to use one over here. Okay, this is just for your readability purpose. Okay, guys, now can you see this? ID of Ajay is 11, and we have one more Ajay, but the ID is different. And we have two more employees with different ID and different name. If you want to print only the keys, you can simply print only the keys, right? If you want to print only the values, you can print only the values, right? Or what you can do is there's one more way, you know, instead of using this, let's say I say value dot get key, and I'll say plus, okay, I'll define some space and I'll say value dot get value, okay, and I'll say plus. Okay, now when I run this, it's giving you 11 and your value. Okay, you printing get key and get value. So guys, again, and heads up for hash map, right? What we are doing is, you know, we are creating an entry. Okay, this is my variable map. All right, this is my variable map. Okay, we have created a hash map. The reference name is map. So we are creating a using this entry set. We are getting into this map variable, and I'm saying get the individual value, right? Get the key and value, and assign those values to my this keyword, that is value. This is a variable name. All right. Now this value has both the parameters, right? The key and the value. And I'm simply, I think I have named it as value. Let's name it as something, let's say temp. Okay, because it's getting confusing. You know, I'm using a lot of times I'm using this. Okay, so this will also work fine. What I'm doing is I'm saying get one of the entry set, your key and value pair, and assign those into my temp variable. And using this temp variable, I can say get my key and get my value. Okay, so you can use your temp variable to get your key and to get your values. Okay, so these are some of the concepts, guys, which we will be definitely using when you are actually working, you know, when on Selenium. Now the way we have added in a similar fashion, we can also say map.remove, and I want to remove of which index. So I can say 14th index ID, the key, right? And I'll simply print this again. Okay. Let's say tomorrow the other Ajay with the ID 14 has left the company. Okay, so now can you see, initially it was printing over here 11, 12, 13, 14. After that, removing, it's printing only 11, 12, and 13. Okay, so these are few of the concept, guys, which you will be requiring when you are actually working on Selenium. Okay, and apart from this, for example, file handling, and there might be any other concept, you know, which you might encounter when we are actually learning Selenium, right? Which we may not have covered And even if we might have covered it, it would be a brush up for you guys. And if there are any methods which you feel that we might not have covered, then we will cover those particular methods when we are actually working on Selenium, right? So when you write the code of Selenium, right, if you encounter that I don't know about this specific method or this feature, then we can cover those individual methods over there itself. Okay. So for today's session, what I'll say is, first of all, I'd like you guys to tell me if you have any questions.